Hello and welcome to another episode of On The Topic. This week I am clutching my controller with much anticipation for what's coming up in the gaming world. I'm Alex.
And I'm feeling a little bit pixelated. I'm Dan.
And yeah, this week, Dan, we're dusting off the old gaming episodes, the gaming knowledge, and we're going to present this week our roundup of the Electronic Entertainment Expo, or as we both know it as E3. And E3 is particularly important, Dan, because it is the calendar event of the year. If anyone's interested in gaming, they'll be looking forward to this event because most of the big games, the AAA titles, are announced during the 3 or 4 days of the event. Have you watched E3 in the past, Dan?
We did in 2019. We did the 2019 episode. Obviously, we didn't do it last year because of Corona. And I mean, thankfully, we actually got an event this year, although online. A little bit disappointing this year, but then I don't think, that the pandemic has helped. It's had a major effect on publishers' ability to provide the usual plethora of surprises. It is what it is, but there's certainly been some good announcements that I think are going to be some great talking points in this episode.
Yeah, there's some promising ones. So before we get into that, so look, if you're joining us and you're not familiar with E3, then let me tell you a little bit about it, guys. It's usually in Los Angeles. It usually takes place in Los Angeles Convention Center. This year it's digital, it's online. And as Dan said last year, it was cancelled because a little event around the world was taking place. Now, what it usually is an opportunity for developers, publishers, and predominantly hardware manufacturers of PC gaming tend to show off their latest stuff, right? This is a way to show to the shareholders what their investments are in, what their returns are going to be from a business perspective, but that's boring stuff. For us, it's about all the interesting games that we can expect to get our grubby little mitts on, probably from around September onwards, a good 6 to 9 month period. And sometimes even, Dan, they announce games at E3 a good year in advance. Sometimes, Dan, 2 years in advance. I refer to Square Enix's Marvel's Avengers, which we're not terribly big fans of. It had all the promise and none of the delivery. And we'll talk about that, no doubt, in just a little bit with something that's coming up very soon.
Oh, yes.
But Dan, this year is another year in which PlayStation, Sony have been absent.
Yeah, didn't they do this in 2019 as well? They pulled out because they wanted to host their own event. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. So they were tired of sharing the stage, quite literally, Dan. And instead they did their own. I mean, they've got a whole in-house number of developers, right? They've got Naughty Dog. They've got a number of different phenomenal companies they've acquired. And so they've got, you know what? 2 fingers up to you. It's going to be all by us. And they've called it State of Play. And soon, sure enough, they'll have their event for the time of recording, probably in a week or two's time. But that's all going to be about Sony. But this year, Xbox, Microsoft have stepped up. They've bought Bethesda, which is quite a big dev studio, and they've predominantly got most of the lion's share of the event. So a lot of the games that I guess we'll be talking about, Dan, are either PC, Xbox. There is some Switch and stuff in there, but no PlayStation. So there'll be a separate event, but nonetheless, it was still a very interesting event. And a lot of the games that they talk about in this will probably be cross-platform. The likes of Ubisoft, etc., won't just have Xbox or Switch. They'll also be on PlayStation. So a lot of this can be transferred over. It's just that PlayStation haven't had their event yet. And that's the way it is. That's all the boring stuff out the way. E3, this is where it's at. This is what we're going to look forward to. And look, if you haven't seen any of it, was it 4 days, Dan? Was it Friday just gone?
Yeah. No, you're right. It's 4 days.
Yeah. So if you didn't see any of that, don't worry. We've got the digest version for you, and we're going to give you our favourite picks. And with that, Dan, do you want to kick us off with your first selection?
Yeah, so I'm going to start off with Ubisoft. Now,
good choice.
I could have chosen Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction, which is being released on the 16th of September. Now, it was previously announced as Rainbow Six Quarantine. Now, they actually changed the name because, well, you know, the world was in actual quarantine at the time.
Although I did play it though, Dan. It was an open event, and it was quite good actually, because the game Siege is quite a few years old now. It's predominantly multiplayer. There's no single player, whereas this was multiplayer, but doing like a playthrough couple of missions. It was really quite fun. I mean, it scared the shit out of me at times because you're being chased by zombies and blood-sucking baddies, but it was really, really good, and they were teasing for it to be released. I suspect, unless you tell me otherwise, they've probably had quite a lot of success and decided to release it as a standalone. So I'm quite looking forward to this, Dan. It does look like a good one. But sorry, I digress.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Also, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, as you just mentioned.
Another season.
Ubisoft announced that Rainbow Six Siege would be getting not just a cross-play, but cross-progression, meaning you can play the game on any platform and your progress rewards will follow you from each platform.
Which is massive.
Which is massive. I mean, it's generally quite unheard of at the moment, but I think this is probably going to be the direction a lot of people will be going now.
Yeah, I agree.
I could have chosen Rocksmith Plus, which is released in summer/autumn 2021 this year. Now, there is guitar teaching software out there, Alex.
Yes, there are. There is.
You plug your guitar into the computer and you play along to the CD, and yeah, wonderful. I don't need it because I am a literal rock star. I'm not. I'm genuinely terrible, but my music's out there somewhere. You can go listen to Catch Me a Comet 13 years later. It's on there.
Indeed.
I could have chosen Just Dance 2022, which is released on the 4th of November. And now this is just a reminder that Ubisoft actually makes money from Just Dance franchise. Not for me, unfortunately. I can't dance. Can't dance, won't dance.
You can't do a shuffle?
I've tried the
two-step shuffle.
I've tried doing the Charleston when the missus watches Strictly Come Dancing, but it's very bad. Hospital. Yeah. Quick way ahead. And also, I could have chosen the DLC Discovery mode for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, which is due autumn this year.
Oh, right.
Alongside a new set of DLC, Ubisoft announced a Discovery mode for Assassin's Creed Valhalla, the latest in a series of free, history-driven exploration modes for the game that reuse the game's open world to teach players about real history. Yes. That's cool, man. That's very so cool.
I think we talked about this before, Dan, years ago, and that's quite immense to be able to say that. I've been to a couple of real-world events, and I'm going on a segue here, but very quickly. I've been in a couple of real-world locations, I say, and I've been here before.
Yeah.
And say, for instance, the Vatican in Rome.
Yeah.
I've never been there before. I've never stepped foot in there. I was walking around, I'm like, oh, I recognise this. I've jumped off that pillar and I've climbed on that cross and I have parkoured over that pew. It's because it's in Assassin's Creed. In London, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now, I know London very well. I'm sure you do, Dan, too, being quite close to the capital. We've been there more than a handful of times, quite a few. Again, I recognise those locations. I walk past Big Ben, and now I don't just look at it as a big bloody clock. I look at it as something that I've climbed up and I've jumped off and I've zipped wide and I've air assassinated people. And I think that's quite a remarkable but very odd way of looking at the world, Dan. Don't you think? Like that, where it's a blend between reality and the virtual, because I've never, apart from London, I've never been to some of these locations before, but I'm very, very familiar. And I think that's hats off to just how well these studios, especially Ubisoft and the Assassin's Creed series, have taken attention to detail. It's brilliant, and to be that familiar but never been there before, I think it's just absolutely mind blowing. So, yeah, I think the series is very good for educating, and it's definitely that's DLC is definitely something I'll take a look at because it's a no-brainer. They render it in perfect virtual 3D that you can run around in and jump off of and climb. Why wouldn't you?
Exactly. But my choice from Ubisoft, released in October 2021, Far Cry 6.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Have you played any of the other ones before?
I played Far Cry 4 and Far Cry Primal, which were both phenomenal. Like Primal, you are literally a caveman walking around with a crossbow and arrow, some clubs and some spears. It's quite
What
fun.
more do you need?
It's different to, say, Far Cry 1, 2, 3, and 4, where you run around with guns. Ironically, I haven't played 5. It is on my agenda to try and buy. It's only like 20 quid on Amazon now.
Is that the one based in America?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's based in a place called Montana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one, yeah.
I still need to pick it up and play that. But yeah, so Far Cry 6. I mean, generally I don't pick these games up until they've sort of dropped in price. You know, they first released, they're like 50 quid. But Ubisoft continued its rollout of press for the unpolitical, then political Far Cry 6, and today debuted a season pass that includes playable versions of older villains, as well as a remaster of Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon. I think Far Cry 3 was one of the first games I played, actually. A friend had it on PC.
Is that the one in Africa?
Yes, I think it's like all sorts, loads of little islands.
Yeah, I think I played that one. It's quite good.
Far Cry 6 takes place on the fictional Caribbean islands of Yarra, which is inspired by Cuba and described as the largest Far Cry playground to date. So this is going to be a big open world by the sounds of things. And a tropical paradise frozen in time. It is ruled by El Presidente Anton Castillo, a fascist dictator with full control over the island. Castillo is guiding his son Diego, who is unsure of his own future, to follow in his footsteps. Esposito described his character as a leader, trying to empower the people to understand that they need strong leadership now, and is stuck in the middle of a revolution. Esposito further added, his father was a dictator before him, and he wants to empower the people to take their country back. His power is to use the resources that they have within the country to survive without allowing outsiders to come in and co-opt their scientists, their intellectual property, all of these things. Esposito continued that Anton is trying to empower his son to take up his mantle and really embrace ideas that would allow him to see that soon he will probably be the next leader in this country. As the player, we take on the role of local Yaran named Danny Rojas, or Roas, I guess if it's a silent J, a former soldier in the Yaran armed forces turned guerrilla soldier fighting for freedom who attempts to restore their nation to its former glory. The player can select Danny's gender at the start of the game. Yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot going on there. I mean, this is typical Far Cry. I do enjoy, as you know from 2019's episode, a little bit of shooty bang bang.
Indeed. And from the gameplay trailers, I know they're sparingly now, but it seems like they're continuing the batshit crazy gadgets and guns and explosions and way to dispatch your enemies, and it does look like it's for sure a continuation of the most recent games and just how creative you can get. So it looks very, very good now.
They always tend to sort of go down a weird direction, though, don't they? They always seem to put the main character on drugs and all sorts of things.
I think in the last one they had a bear that you could call upon to jump into battle with you. So yeah, I can imagine much the same in terms of adopting wildlife to help see your objectives, which would be quite an interesting dynamic, Dan.
Indeed. Other than the Far Cry, the other choices I could have had, which I didn't choose, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, which is released next year, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, again released next year. Now, more on Avatar. This is Ubisoft's game based on Avatar, the 2008 movie by James Cameron. Finally debuted to the world, the teaser showed off what appeared to be an open-world action-adventure set in the film's world, with players taking the role of a new Navi character. I think I got that right.
Yep.
We're not renowned for pronouncing names and creatures correctly on this show.
No, but it is that's how they're pronounced, and James Cameron, isn't it? I think they've now finished the next trilogy of filming back to back. They've been doing it for years now. Just waiting for next film, Dan. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, certainly has. I mean, it took him years just to do the first film, didn't it?
It did, yeah. I think 3 or 4, could even be longer. It's been that again for this, but we shall see how long we have to wait. But yeah, it looks like they're starting the hype train again, and this game could be interesting because it was an interesting, very vibrant and strange alien world which we saw back in. Crikey, now what was it?
2009.
Yeah, 9. So it's a long time ago. It's quite a good film. I tried watching it again recently, Dan, but it's like 3.5 hours. It's a long slog.
Yeah, it does drag.
But yeah, I might be on for that.
Nice. Have you got any choices from Ubisoft this year?
I have not. I think you've covered off all the ones I was interested in. A couple of really good expansions on existing games.
Yeah, definitely. I've got some from Gearbox, not necessarily my choices, but they did make some interesting announcements. So, did you ever play Borderlands, Alex?
I didn't. I couldn't get into it, but our mutual friend Rob was a big fan. But no, I couldn't get on board with the cel shaded graphics and the semi-open world kind of arena. I just call me simple, but these days I need to be told where I'm going, not have a level cap or something to stop me from progressing. So,
yeah, makes sense. I played number 2. It was quite fun. A friend let me borrow it for a while and then handed it back. But yeah, it's good fun. But there's going to be a movie, apparently.
All right.
Randy Pitchford kicked off the Gearbox E3 2021 showcase with a behind-the-scenes look at the film. More on the front of Borderlands, there's going to be a spin-off called Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. Now that in this trailer, it actually confirmed that you will be able to fight wyverns.
Oh.
That's it, really. That's all they sort of really gave away, but... Does Borderlands really need a spin-off when it's got 3 games already? I don't know. I'm not sure. And then lastly, you got Godfall. Is getting cross-gen play and launching for the PS4 on August 10th. The PS4 version of Godfall also comes with a free PS5 upgrade. So if you're going to be upgrading at some point and you're getting Godfall, happy days.
Cashback.
Yeah. A Fire and Darkness expansion was announced alongside an upcoming Lightbringer update, which will allow players to earn cursed loot and fashionable new armor. Onto Xbox and Bethesda, I guess, next. I think you've got some choices in there. I think if your message to me yesterday serves well.
We do, in as much as well, we've got a couple of exclusives. So as I mentioned at the beginning, they came out all guns blazing, Microsoft and Xbox, and one of these is going to be, well, not Godfall, Dan, but Redfall. So it's all about a game. I mean, it's just there's a very fancy trailer. It's about 3.5 minutes long. It's not gameplay. It's story footage, and the rest of it. But the long short of it is, it looks like it's got feelings of Overwatch. Have you ever played Overwatch before?
No, I know the game though. It was quite popular when I worked in retail. Mm-hmm. Always picked up by the youngsters.
Yeah, it's still quite popular. I know people who still play it. It's got that look and feel in terms of the artistry and the graphics. So it's very polished and very stylish. And the long short of it is, it looks like it's going to be a single player or co-op game. No mention of multiplayer at the moment. And it's all around a varied team of individuals with different powers and abilities who hunt vampires and those who are the evil guys who are following the occult. Lots of banter, lots of quips. Has a bit of a Left 4 Dead vibe, you know. A gang of people will come together and they'll fight off hordes of baddies and make their way through maps and levels. And there's not too much to talk about because it was just, I guess, a story cinematic trailer, but it does look fun. It does look quite good. And the things on the show in terms of the weapons and the combined abilities, which I guess I'll talk about in a minute. We'll talk about another game. It looks quite good. So it's all about vampire hunters shooting the people following the occult, people in cults themselves, and tackling vampires as bosses. So that one looks promising, but it's early days, and this is where I said it does take a while sometimes for games to come out, because this one is due out next summer, Dan, summer 2022. So long time to wait, but the studio on that one is Arcane, but that's going to be an Xbox exclusive.
Nice.
We've got another one, Dan.
Oh,
Psychonauts 2. Have you ever played the first Psychonauts at all?
I'm not familiar with Psychonaut, but
No, this one was on my radar. Apparently, it's been a long time coming. Much loved titles, one of those ones. So, if you Google it, and where possible, we'll try and put links into the description below in terms of the trailers. This is like playing, I don't know, Crash Bandicoot or Rayman on acid.
oh, okay. So I'm sold because you said Crash Bandicoot, and I was suddenly sent back all the way to the late 90s with my PS1.
And that's why I guess I dropped that in there, Dan, because I've never played Psychonauts, but from the gameplay trailer, this looks like kind of the old 90s, very late 90s, early 2000s type platformers, you know, Mario World 64, Donkey Kong 64, those kinds of games where you go into different worlds. It's very colourful and vibrant. You've got different puzzles to solve and different enemies, and you'll move and progress. And this looks like it's very similar to that. And for those who played the first game, you're probably nodding away as you're walking down the road or at home or whilst you're typing away at work. But I've never played it. But it looks phenomenal. The basis is there's this group of people that will go into people's psyche, into their minds, and they'll battle all of the wonderful things that happen in our dreams, in our subconscious, and all the bad things and the nightmares. And with that, I guess you're not restricted, Dan, are you, by reality? There's no such thing as gravity certain times, or you can fly, you can do this and that. And it just looks brilliant. You know, it shows a wide variety of different abilities, jumping, they call it aerobatics. You've got swinging, jumping, pouncing from platforms. It just looks a lot of fun. And I think for me, it's been a long, long time since I've had a fun game. And that sounds really sad, but most games on the market at the minute tend to be shooters. They tend to be free to plays, and invariably the fun's sucked out because of microtransactions.
Yeah,
That's just my opinion, but that's what I'm seeing. Whereas this harkens back to the good old days, and I sound really old now, but it is. It does. Yeah, it's all about a character called Raz who explores this wacky and weird world in front of his people's subconscious. Now, be on Xbox exclusive. It's on Game Pass, so Game Pass is on top of your gold. So megabucks, but does unlock all the access to other games in that portfolio. And it's out on the 25th of August this year. So not long, a couple of weeks. But that does look like a lot of fun. And that one came from left field, Dan. I didn't really expect to want to play that, but it looks really, really good. So yeah, that one is for me for sure.
Well known for your left field choices, and I
know,
like
right?
it.
Have a look, Dan. The trailer is compelling. So it's definitely one to look for.
My choice from Xbox and Bethesda was Starfield. Long time to wait for it, though. November the 11th, 2022 is the release date. And at this point, Alex, we'll be both pushing 37.
Oi, oi.
How does that make you feel? Old?
Pretty old, but I mean, it's been in development for now 6 or 7 years anyway. So what's any more time to wait, I guess.
Indeed. A bit of a lowdown for everyone. So Microsoft's Sarah Bond also confirmed the game would be an exclusive, presumably for PC and Xbox consoles. And you're right, it's been in development since 2017. Now, it's been described as Skyrim in space. Now, I loved Skyrim.
Mm-hmm.
Genuinely enjoyed it. You get to build your own house, explore this big landscape, kill dragons and all the monsters and all the likes. Good fun. I mean, if it's anything like this in space, sold. And that was described by the game studio's executive producer, Todd Howard. Bethesda's managing director, Ashley Cheng, compares the game to Star Wars. And he said, for me, Starfield is the Han Solo simulator. Get in a ship, explore the galaxy, do fun stuff. According to Howard, in Starfield, players will join an organisation dubbed Constellation. The last group of space explorers at the outset. Players will choose their character's background with many options for customization that will impact how some things in the game unfold. So yeah, very much like Skyrim. Some of your choices will, I guess, change maybe your appearance or what you do.
Yeah.
So I'm big up for that. I bet it'll cost a pretty penny when it comes out.
Yeah. Well, they need to get their money back from all the years of development, right?
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I think because they've teased it for so long now, they might get people who have a little bit of, hype fatigue. I'm not sure if that's a thing. If it's not, I'm coining the phrase. But I think a lot of people have been really excited about this. And the fact that it's now exclusive, I think will piss off a lot of PlayStation fans because I don't think it was previously. I think it was cross-platform. I see a little bit of noise on that from the PlayStation forums. And I'm lucky enough and fortunate enough to have both consoles at the moment. So I have both kind of fingers in each pie, so to speak. But hey, that's life, and for so many years, Xbox players haven't been able to have access to the games such as Spider-Man, Marvel Spider-Man, which is brilliant, Miles Morales, we talked about recently, such as the Last of Us, the Uncharted series, all of those brilliant games. It's by the looks of it's now Xbox's turn. So I do empathise, but hey, that's the nature of the business these days.
Indeed. A couple of other games which we could have chosen. Sea of Thieves, A Pirate's Life, which is going to be a Pirates of the Caribbean crossover, which is due June 2022. Diablo 2 Resurrected, which I guess is the remaster version of the classic, which is due September 2022 as well. Did you ever play Diablo 2?
No, I had some friends who were really big fans of it, loved and raved about it, but I never had a PC that could run it, so I always missed out.
I had it on the family computer, and I'd always meet up with my friend online back in the days of dial-up, where it would take 5 minutes to boot up your internet. And it was always really slow.
Beep. That's a darling tone. I'm not just making random noise. I'm not drunk, guys. That's a similar sound to dial-up back in 2000 or whatever. 56K. It's beautiful.
Wasn't it just? Lastly, Halo Infinite. Another big but expected part of the show with 343 studio head Bonnie Ross and creative director Joseph Staten announcing that the game's multiplayer would be free to play on PC and Xbox consoles when the game launches. The first free-to-play multiplayer season and the story-driven campaign will launch together. It says, this is quite American, this holiday season. No disrespect to our American listeners, by the way.
No, not at all.
So winter for us English.
Probably for the Christmas period. And Dan, have you ever played Halo before? Have you ever enjoyed the delights of that game?
I haven't. I've been an Xbox player for many years. It's just one game I never picked up. Best
one so far, in my opinion, is Halo 3, but I'm sure those who played Halo might disagree with me. But anyway, being a guy in some massive armour, effectively as a giant with a machine gun, shooting aliens in the face is great fun. But the multiplayer is always good as well. And I do wonder whether this is Xbox's answer or competition to the likes of Call of Duty and Fortnite and the other things, because it is well known and well renowned in terms of the multiplayer experience. And I've had a lot of fun over the years playing Halo multiplayer. So I'm quite excited for it. And it's interesting to hear, as you say, Dan, that it is free. But the single player is brilliant, and it has been delayed and it has been teased, and there's been a change of studio dev between Bungie, which have always had it, then to more recent years 343 Industries. But I think it's half decent. The last one wasn't too good, but that's because I'm old school. But I'm looking forward to this one, Dan. It looks really good, looks fun, and it looks nostalgic. And as we all know, listen to this channel, we love a bit of nostalgia. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be good.
Let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is Square Enix.
Yes.
Did you want to start off with the new game, or do you want to talk about the DLC, which is coming on? The game that we reviewed the demo on and
the beta, yeah.
The beta. Where do you want to start?
We can talk about the shit and then get on to perhaps, hopefully, fingers crossed, the good. Square Enix, yes, they're flogging a dead horse, in my opinion, but they're still bleeding on about Marvel's Avengers.
Yeah. So it was announced previously that the next expansion for Marvel's Avengers would be Black Panther War for Wakanda, which looks banging, to be fair. But we got a longer look at it during the show. This expansion will see you defend Wakanda from a group of invaders who have got their eye on the precious vibranium. Now, this arrives in August, so not long to wait. And perhaps this, might prove to be the shot in the arm that Marvel's Avengers needs to stop its sagging reputation.
Do you think it's enough to entice you back? I mean, they've already had some events and some characters being teased back, and poor PlayStation players still haven't had Spider-Man, and they've been promised that as an exclusive. Is it enough to finally get you reinstalling it and having a go, or do you think it's long gone?
I didn't really play the Hawkeye stories, to be honest. I tried, I think when they released Kate Bishop, I jumped on for a little bit, really struggled because, again, it sort of means you got to level up. The other thing that really bothers me about the game is the microtransactions, which you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
I don't want to grind it out just so I can get the MCU costumes.
Well, no, Dan.
Bothered.
Dan, you pay for it. That's it.
You pay for them
because you don't want to grind, so you pay for it, and it's a pay to win model, and it's absolutely garbage, in my opinion. I mean, look, I don't want to sound like a cynical critic. I thought the single player at times was fun, but ultimately it was flat. There's lots of grind, and if you say free to play, just killed it dead. They have addressed it. They have done turnarounds, have released stuff trying to keep players playing. I don't think they've done a very good job. I don't think they very, very much will. However, I do wonder whether they're going off the late Chadwick Boseman with Black Panther and perhaps trying to channel that renewed interest in Black Panther as a character. I hope they come across as that cynical, but I do wonder whether they're hoping that they'll be able to piggyback off it. But anyway, it does sound good. My main beef was there's no variety of enemies. It's still the same stuff, still the same environment, which is dull, boring, and largely full of empty space. This looks a little bit different. New environments, new enemies, new characters. But any game that heavily relies upon either grind or pay to win is still rotten to its core, in my opinion. So I'm not very much interested. And it'll probably come at quite a high download anyway, Dan. So you've got to also sacrifice some of your hard disk space to download the game again. No doubt you've uninstalled it and then play this title. I don't know. I just feel betrayed, Dan, with all the promise.
Yeah.
And, Square Enix, I mean, delayed this bloody for 2 years or something. I mean, I remember going to Eurogamer Expo 2018. And they had the first A-Day demo on the bridge. And it's been ages, and what did they deliver? It was something that was lackluster, and
Yeah.
it was off target and centered around the character no one gave two shits about, and still doesn't. And I don't know. I think they mishandled it. So with a heavy heart, I say no, but I might be saying yes to next title, Dan.
Oh, as soon as I saw this, I thought, oh, that's really out of the blue. Like, this is a surprise.
100%.
And by the sounds of things, lessons have been learned. Guardians of the Galaxy. I genuinely thought the trailer was quite good.
Agreed.
Lots of flashy combat. You had Rocket, who was just cracking wise jokes. Lots of explosions. And apparently in this one, you just play as Star-Lord. Although from the looks of their big deep dive showcase, you'll be able to control your other Guardians' mates' abilities during battle to rack up those combo numbers.
Yeah, it looks like there's a couple of sections, and again, you can see it. We'll put a link in the below where they're fighting some alien wildlife, and sure enough, yes, as Dan, you said, you're darting around and shooting your dual pistols as Star-Lord, and then it looks like you activate some kind of special, and now he's hovering and he's shooting and he's dodging, and the tape deck goes on and the music's being played. I can't recall what track it was. I think it was a late 70s banger. It's very tongue-in-cheek and very in the tone of Marvel's new favourite franchise. And as he's doing that, you're then coordinating other, as you say, characters to do their combos and their specials. So you don't take control of them, but you'll shoot your pistols, and then you perhaps will select on the D-pad or whatever it ends up being, and then a character then to select then a particular ability or a weapon or an attack. So it looks quite good, and as you say, the combos, they could make some quite interesting scenarios. So I think it could be everything that Avengers should have been.
Yeah.
I don't be overly positive. I mean, it is a single player game. There's no multiplayer. There's no microtransactions. There's no DLC, which means that actually, in theory, I can hear myself having this replayed back to me in the future episodes. But in theory, you get the game. And you don't fuck around with paywalls. You don't fuck around with servers and matchmaking and all the painful things that go with a game as a service, which is absolute garbage these days. It looks like, as you say, Dan, they might have learned from it and done some good stuff with this one. Now, it is due out this year.
Yeah.
In 4 months' time.
October 26th.
And that worries me a little bit, though, Dan, because it came out from nowhere. They kept this super secret. And that's quite difficult to do in this day and age. So how they've got it to where it is now, whether it be as it is or should be in 4 months. I mean, 4 months' time, they're going to gold, which is printing discs, and they're starting to set up the distribution, and they've finished the game, and they're ironing out some some bugs. So I'm super skeptical. But if they pull it off, hats off to them. They might have at least renewed some faith in the studio. Because I love Square Enix. Their games are phenomenal. Didn't they do the Final Fantasies? Was that Square Enix?
Yeah, so I've got a little bit of news on the Final Fantasy front in a minute. But they did the Final Fantasy VII Remake, which unfortunately ended up being a PlayStation exclusive. That
exclusivity.
Yes, that actually ended this year, but there's still no sign of it being released on Xbox. So,
I mean, the Tomb Raider games are brilliant. I mean, that's essentially Xbox's alternative to Uncharted. And actually, I think Square Enix probably do it better. Doesn't have quite the same kind of polish, but it has more fun.
Yeah.
And I love the Tomb Raider games. So it's not that I'm against the studio. I just don't like what they've done with the IP. So yeah, it's on my list. It will also be coming to PC, so you don't have to just be a console player.
Also come to Nintendo Switch as well.
Is it?
Yeah,
that'd be good.
because Avengers wasn't. I think Avengers was only strictly Xbox, PS4, and did it go on PC? I don't know.
I
I'm not
don't
sure.
think so, but if it's not on your console of choice, you dodged the bullet. That's all I can say.
Oh God, yeah. But there, I do feel optimistic around Guardians of the Galaxy. A little bit more info. The game will react to decisions that you make, and there will be some timed dialogue options as well. So it does sound a lot more story driven, like you say, which Avengers should have been. But we'll see. I mean, we'll reserve judgment. I probably won't pick up straight away this time. I'll sort of be a bit more cautious after
Same.
buying Avengers sort of straight out of the hat. You know, I spent 50 quid, got a bit of a storyline, and then the rest was I don't know, just
Endless, pointless grind. It was just hideous.
but on to the Final Fantasy news. They are doing a Final Fantasy Pixel remaster. Now, this is one for our Final Fantasy retro players. Square Enix are releasing all 6 of their NES and SNES Final Fantasy games on Steam in one big pixel-loving collection. Technically, most of all the Final Fantasies 1 to 6 are already on Steam, but most of them are the clearly inferior mobile versions. Given this one's Pixel Remasters moniker, it looks like this collection will be the pixelated originals at last. No release date yet on that one, but just coming soon.
Okay.
And lastly, from Square Enix, they announced Stranger of Paradise, a Final Fantasy Origin. Now, they've teamed up with Team Ninja, and they unveiled a trailer which looks like it's a lot of action-focused combat. Looks to be moody. High fantasy retelling of the Warriors of the Light's first battle against the deadly chaos. And of course, from the designs, you can tell, apparently, they're designed by Tetsuya Nomura. And this one comes out in 2022.
Bit of a wait to wait, though.
Yeah, indeed. Bit of news from Capcom. Unfortunately, no choices here from me, but no, we love a bit of news. We haven't done a roundup for a while. Capcom's E3 conference was a bit short on announcements, but it did reveal work had begun on Resident Evil Village DLC. The only real announcement of note from Capcom on Monday night, at the time of recording, was that work has already begun on the DLC for Resident Evil Village, but they didn't say what it was, and they certainly didn't show anything. They also announced Monster Hunter Stories 2, which is due out on July 9th, and there'll be a free demo to play on June the 25th. So at the time of recording, when this episode drops, that'll be in a week.
Put him.
And there are already plans to add the Palamute mount from Monsters Hunter Rise. I guess a crossover? I don't know what Palamute mount means. I'm not that savvy. At the same time, Monster Hunter Rise will be adding references to Rise 2 this month and next, according to the game's new roadmap, with version 3.1 due on June the 24th.
Good stuff.
And lastly, in my notes, I've got a bit from Nintendo as well. I could have chosen Mario Party Superstars, which comes out on October the 29th, and you can start pre-ordering from today. Metroid Dread, Nintendo announced that they are still working on Metroid Prime 4. Now, they didn't actually show anything from this upcoming game, but they did reveal the stylish return of the series' 2D roots with Metroid Dread, which is due out on the Switch on October the 8th. I could have chosen Hyrule's Warriors, Age of Calamity expansion pass. Now, this is a DLC for Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, which is coming on June the 18th, which, today, if you're listening to this episode. The update Pulse of the Ancients will be joined by another DLC update in November. Good news for me, Alex. I think what things entertaining us in 2021. One of our listeners mentioned Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 and 2. Now, that was only available on Xbox and PS4, but as of June the 25th, it will be available on Switch. So I might be grabbing that one if it's cheap.
Very good.
But my last choice for this episode, which comes from Nintendo, is of course, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild sequel.
I thought you'd say that because you've got the first one, which was it gifted to you by your good brother of yours?
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to any of our previous episodes from around Christmas time, my brother bought me a Switch, completely unexpected. I didn't ask for it, but obviously a nice surprise on Christmas Day when, things probably weren't that great. And I bought Breath of the Wild in January with a little bit of my birthday Christmas money. I'm a Christmas baby, unfortunately, or nearabouts. Absolutely loved it. I won't go into too much detail because certainly that was covered in things that entertain us in 2021. But Breath of the Wild sequel just looks... I suppose it looks the same, but it's going to be elevated.
That's not a bad thing, though, right, Dan? Because I think it is a beautiful game, right?
Yeah, I mean, the graphics aren't amazing, but they're not rubbish either. It's somewhere it's just stunning. It's beautiful. I can't really explain it. But Breath of the Wild really sort of captured the nostalgia I had playing the Zelda games as a kid. And I've certainly not felt that nostalgia with a recent game like this.
Mm.
So I'm still playing it now. I'm really enjoying it. So to see this one, I'm on the hype train. Now, their trailer was very short but sweet, and it does leave with more questions than answers. But it will be aiming for a 2022 release. So take my money, Nintendo. Just give me the game now.
Take all of the money.
Indeed. But that wraps up for me this episode, but I think you've got a few more choices to go through.
Yeah, I've got two more from different ends of the spectrum, Dan. Battlefield 2042. You're either a Battlefield gamer or you're a COD gamer. Call of Duty, you're invariably one or the other. Not really both. Have you ever played Battlefield before, Dan?
No, but then I was never really a COD person either.
You're one of those people. Very rare.
Yeah.
I was probably more Battlefield. I played Bad Company 2, which was phenomenal in the mid-2000s. And Battlefield 1, which was World War One, was good fun. And that sounds like that's a slogan. But it is a good shooter. But it's fair to say, for the last couple of years, it's handed itself over to COD, which has had, obviously, Warzone and Modern Warfare and the rest of it. Anyway, Battlefield 2042 is coming out and shooting everyone in the face. And everyone's really excited. And the reason being is, Dan, they're saying they've now increased the online multiplayer match size to 128 players.
Oh, wow.
Whereas only before, I think it was something like 90 if you're lucky, if not 60. And they used to cap it from console to PC. So PC, you could have bigger servers, better graphics, and therefore better environments and more players. And PC consoles always limited. Well, now 128 players, and that's cross-platform. Now, where usually you'll choose your loadout and you'll run around with a choice gun and you get shot in the head or blown up to smithereens, or you commandeer a tank or a helicopter, whatever, you'll have your chosen loadout. So if you go with a sniper rifle, you can't pick up any other guns, you're brown bread, then you can choose another loadout and you rinse and repeat. In this one, they're saying you can choose your weapon and then you can, on the fly, choose different attachments. And you can change your loadout as you're running. So say, for instance, you want to go silent, you choose suppressor. Say, for instance, you want to go into sniper mode where you do on a single shot and you attach your bifold attachment to keep your steady aim. Or say, for instance, you want to go explosive, you attach your under gun grenade launcher. And all of those things mean that actually you can approach a different circumstance or situation a different way without having to die and to then choose different loadout to suit your preferences, which is really, really interesting. I've never done that before. And it logically kind of makes sense. In as much as you can't do that in real life, but why restrict the player in terms of the creativity? So that sounds really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. And with that, then you have the usual progression of attachments and leveling up of guns and abilities, and they call them operators. So whereas you usually have classes, an engineer, an assault, or a medic, you don't have that anymore, but you can choose set gadgets or set abilities. And then with that option to augment and change your weapon style, it sounds pretty good, Dan. I'm not going to lie to you, it sounds really exciting. Now, with that, then you can also have fully destructible environments, which is what Battlefield's known for. So you can take a tank and blow up a skyscraper, and the whole thing come crashing down and kill 70 people. You can fly a helicopter and take out targets in tanks and do all this kind of stuff. And you can also don a wingsuit, so jump off a building, fly down, and take out someone from behind. You can do all these creative things all in an open world map, or not open world. It's a large level of different set things, and it sounds very cool, and it continues that theme from other games. But interesting enough, Dan, what they said is it's not going to do a battle royale, which a lot of games do these days. As I've already mentioned, Fortnite's known for it, of course. That's all it really is, or Fun 4, and COD's Warzone. No, they're getting rid of that. There will be other different modes, like I guess Conquest and Capture the Flag and those kind of old school things, which are really fun. But yeah, they're not going to do Battle Royale, but there's no single player either. Because usually in Battlefield, they have a single player campaign, it looks gorgeous and it really is quite fun. But no, they've put all their eggs in one basket. But that's not a bad thing because the multiplayer is really, really good. So I'm looking forward to that, Dan. It's out in just a couple of months, October. And it's available. No, not long to wait. It's available on all consoles and on Steam and Epic Game stores on PC. So really, really good. Really looking forward to that. Can't wait. That's literally in my pre-order, waiting to get nabbed up. Can't wait. And then the final one, Dan. This is close to my heart, close to yours. This is Jurassic World Evolution 2.
Oh, of course. I still haven't played the first one.
It's phenomenal.
Always on offer on the Nintendo store. On the Switch, you can get literally the game with all the expansions. Whereas I think if you get it through the Xbox or PlayStation, you have to buy the expansion separately, or it costs a lot more money than what I could get it for on the Switch. But look, I will get it eventually. It's going to happen.
It's massively fun, Dan. It's got me through lockdown, is what I'll say from that. And my laptop wouldn't run it, so I'm actually using it off NVIDIA GeForce Now, which is essentially a web browser, and you can play any game within reason through that without having to use a graphics card, which is game-changing and HD and beautiful and all that nonsense. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. If you like a management game, a sim game, the likes of, I don't know, SimCity or Theme Hospital, Zoo Tycoon, any of those things where you're building stuff and you've got to manage different sections and make sure they're all speaking to one another and harmonious and all that kind of stuff, then this is the game for you. If you're not into any of that micromanagement, it ain't, sadly. It does have a shitload of dinosaurs, and they do like to break out of cages, so I'm not happy. But the cool thing is you fly helicopters, you tranquilize them, you get them transported, you splice them, you change DNA, you get them to fight. But then you build your park. You have monorails and you have paths and burger joints. You've got to think about toilets, and you've got to think about... it sounds really boring now. You've got to think about all the things that someone would look for in a theme park. And so it was really fun, the first one. I did download a couple of the DLCs, about £3 a pop, and they were worth it. So Dan, if you ever do decide to get on the Switch, nab it, because I had hours, and I'm talking hours of fun, and it really, really is. But the second one's out, and this one is much the same, but whereas the first game you had a couple of set maps where you were challenged, quite rightly, to the environment, so you didn't have an awful lot of space, but had to generate X amount of money, which then made you think about how you get the right dinosaurs in to get the punters in. to make sure then that they had enough to keep them there. Yeah, that was quite interesting, and odd shapes and how to transport the people around the maps. Those logistical challenges were all fun. This one, though, is going to take you to a much larger environment with different environments. So no longer jungle or island like Island Nublar, which you know from the films. You're going to be in a desert. You're going to be in the Arctic. You're going to be in this. You're going to be in that. And this is linked to, I guess, the film Dominion coming out, where we get the gist that dinosaurs are no longer in, is it Cuba? In South America. They've gotten out into the world. And this is where this game, I guess, plays part of that. So you have a number of different environments, and you've got to build parks around these environments and the needs of the dinosaurs. And different dinosaurs have different needs depending on, you know, where you plonk them. And in that also are underwater dinosaurs, Dan. So if you want that big, snappy dinosaur that eats people, jumps out of the water in Jurassic World, it looks like you got it. And that's the one thing I thought was missing from the first game, was a different type of dinosaur than a land one. In the DLCs, you got the pterodactyls in their aviaries, and that was cool, but you could only have it in the dome. But you could that's all you had. You either had that or you had the ground dinosaurs. In this, you got water ones, and doesn't sound like much to those of the uninitiated, but to those who played the game, that's really quite exciting. So I'm really looking forward to it. I'm not a massive fan of that genre, but Jurassic World Evolution was a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. This one is out this year. It's bigger, it's larger. I think they're talking about something like 75 different species of dinosaur, which is massive.
Oh, wow.
PC at the minute, so Steam or Epic Game Store. Eventually be released for console, but I think it'll be quite fiddly with joysticks. I don't think it's going to be very fun. And then with that, they have to then port it and do shortcuts to make it accessible. I would steer clear, apart from the Switch, perhaps, if you get a good deal, Dan, not to shit on the chips. But if you can pick it up on PC, do, because it's going to be brilliant. So yeah, that one's for me, Jurassic World Evolution 2.
Sold. It's also worth noting that EA, or Electronic Arts, didn't turn up to E3, Alex.
That's a shame, Dan.
They're doing their own event on July the 22nd, 2021, where I'm sure, no doubt, they'll give us another FIFA game, which, you know, I like FIFA, but they'll probably
no
say...
one needs.
But no one needs. Just update the game every year. We don't need a new single game every year. Just do something that is going to be cheaper, but, you know, it's cash in.
Well, it's EA, isn't it? And EA, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing publishers, but they've been criticised heavily over the last decade or so for only thinking about the bank and not thinking about the player. And so I'm always wary when EA are backing a game. When they tried to do microtransactions a couple of years ago, and the amount of noise they got from the internet, quite rightly, they backtracked pretty quick. And I'm talking about Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
They massively screwed the pooch on that, because I enjoyed the first one, but because they screwed it up so much and backed the wrong horse and only thought about the money, again, paywalls and play to wins and stuff, it meant that all the fun was taken out. And so they backtracked and they took it out. Eventually they teased it back in, but on a lesser scale. But I never played the second one because of it, and I loved the first game. So I'm wary with EA. We'll see what they have to offer. But as you say, Dan, they never quite listen to the punter, to the customer, and that worries me a little bit. Gotta be honest.
Yeah. Oh man, do you remember a simpler time when microtransactions and that just weren't a thing? I'm talking about, you know, Mega Drives, SNESes.
You buy your game, you get your cartridge, you whack it in your console, and you have hours, days, months of fun.
Yeah.
What is all about DLCs that unlock most of the game and play to win? I'm just sick of it to bat teeth, Dan. It's just, I really do think it's a blight on gaming, and that with, you know, free to play titles, I just think the quality is no longer there. But
yeah, I get it. I mean, quickly talk about a mobile game that I play. I've been playing it for 3 years now. Marvel Strike Force.
Oh yeah.
The thing that really annoys me is that they really make you grind out for like the latest characters, and then by the time you've earned those new characters, they've released another wave of characters which are better than that a lot, and they've released their own character into this Marvel game called Kestrel. Overpowered, just completely wipes out all your teams, and you're like, why am I wasting my fucking time?
Yeah.
Why am I wasting my time playing this game? I'm sort of on the brink of probably quitting because there is another Marvel game coming out soon on the mobile. It's by Netmarble. It's called Marvel Future Revolution, which is going to be an open world game where you sort of play through different dimensions stuff, which looks quite cool. But I'm digressing away from E3 and all the good stuff.
But no, going back to EA, yeah, let's see what they decide to churn out this holiday season.
Indeed. Well, I guess that wraps it for this episode. But we've got some good stuff coming up, Alex.
We really do. And so, as I say, at least hopefully you come to expect nothing less. A couple of left fields there. And have a look. The trailers are out. They're on YouTube. They're free to access. I'll try and put as many links as I can between now and release of this episode. Have a look. And let us know if we've missed any. There's plenty. Dan's covered a fair amount. But were there any that you were excited for and we haven't talked about? Were there any perhaps that, you wanted to share with us or fellow listeners? We've got some contact details down. How could they do that if they want to get in touch?
Indeed. We are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at On The Topic Pod. We've got Gmail, which is onthetopicpodcast@gmail.com. And of course, we've got Anchor. So if you follow any of our socials, we always put a link into our posts. Just click the link, let your mobile phone accept your microphone, and leave us a voice message, and we'll plug you in. And we've got the website, Alex, which I still haven't memorized because I'm completely useless.
That's fine, Dan. You do all the hard work. I'll just finish it off. So on our new website, it's On The Topic Podcast, all one word, onthetopicpodcast.wordpress.com. Very simple. onthetopicpodcast.wordpress.com. Go there. We've got a little bit of bios. You can see our beautiful faces. We've got some testimonials, and we've got some ways in which you can listen to the show there. So if you haven't got any native podcast platform of your choice, you can stream it through WordPress. But it's all there for you. Go have a look, have a scroll, and have a jolly good time over there. But yeah, we've got some contact details there, but we've also got some episodes coming up, Dan. Now we've got probably the next one coming up, I think, is probably going to be our half-season review of Loki.
Yes, episodes 1 to 3. At the time of recording, I've just watched episode 2. It's just starting to pick up pace.
But Tom Hiddleston is definitely on form, though, isn't he? He's definitely got his niche.
Yeah, and I'm not a massive fan of Owen Wilson, but he is absolutely killing it in Loki at the moment. He's just so funny. He's
very good. So now I'm really looking forward to that. We've done the other ones, so have a look at those in the last couple of months. We've also got cancelled TV shows. So what TV show have you watched only then to find that the network that were bankrolling it are no longer interested and have binned it off?
Well, at the time of recording, is it worth noting that we pre-recorded cancelled TV shows? But because we like time-relevant deliciousness on this channel, we've had to do E3. But one that I didn't find out until yesterday, I've been watching Manifest. So I just finished season 3, ended up on a jaw-dropping cliffhanger, got cancelled by NBC. Fuming. Yeah,
not good, because that's one that we talked about at length. And just a timely kind of example of just how perilous your favourite show is. So it's a really good episode. I had lots of fun talking about it and reminiscing about some of those shows where we've just been shot in the back, really, by the TV execs. So that's a really good episode, and that's going to be probably landing in about 2 weeks' time.
And then we've got Leah Holford and Paul Messer Photography joining us on the show in, 2 or 3 weeks' time, hopefully.
Yeah, it should be good. And we have another natter. They can join us on the sofa and we'll talk through what they're up to and what they've been doing over the last 12 to 18 months. And we've had a couple of interviews recently with About My Area and Solent Sky Services, and we want to do more of that, and we are. So it's really good. Mix things up and just have a good old natter. So I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah. Exciting times, Alex. Got a busy few weeks ahead of us. And, of course, we've still got plenty in our back catalogue, which will probably no doubt start dropping as and when.
Indeed.
Oh, man. I'm tired now.
I am spent. And with that, I'm going to nurse what will hopefully be some future thumb sores from all of the playing on the old joypad. For another week, I've been Alex.
And I'm going to go on Amazon and see what games I can pre-order when it's payday. I've been Dan.
And we'll see you next time.